Okay, time to get started. First of all, thank you very much for joining our meeting today. My name is Daniel Alarcon. I'm support manager here at FileCloud. I've been here around for almost 4 years with the team. And I'm going to take you to a little tour on what has changed in FileCloud 19.3 that wasn't here before. Right? There are significant changes, some minor annoyances that we got rid of, and some big changes that have come on in the last year, especially. And again, if you have any questions, just let me know at any time. I'll make sure to address them. Okay. Okay, so there are a few things that we're going to talk about today. First, we have a FileCloud Community Edition. We're going to talk about the FileCloud Drive UI, the bandwidth control that has been added to server sync, CAPTCHA protection, some improvements that have happened in sync in general, and we have added permissive mode in Smart DLP. Okay, so first of all, we have a FileCloud Community Edition. This is brand new since December 18th. That's when we released the new availability of FileCloud Community Edition. And the Community Edition, just to let you know, in general, if you are seeing my screen right now, you'll see that I have the release notes for 19.3, but the Community Edition here is basically a more affordable license for anyone to get started with FileCloud, right? It's the same exact product. There's nothing different from the installation point of view. Of course, there are a few things that get stripped from that license type. Essentially, the Community Edition is only available for 3 full users. You still get unlimited limited accounts, right? If you create that and you install that on your company, you will be able to share unlimited amount of external users, right? Those users don't have a space to save their own files on FileCloud, but you can share with them anything, and you can share it with a password protected user, with a user that has to log in. And one huge change on this is that this license here is only $10 per year. Okay, that's a big difference. Okay, so and all this, anything that is regarding on payment on Community Edition is going to donation or charity. So that's important for you to know. One other thing here is that there are things that don't work on Community Edition, but for many of the people that are going to get this version of FileCloud, they don't really require that. So what are things that are not part of there? Smart DLP is not there. Okay, so it's like smart protection or avoiding deleting of files. Governance of files is also not part of the Community Edition. And server sync and other advanced tools are not part of there, but still you can have everything on the basic side of FileCloud. That is, you can manage your users, your team folders, you can manage network folders, you can still have unlimited shares, password protected shares, privately protected shares, and all of those features still work with FileCloud Sync and FileCloud Drive and mobile applications. So it's a big step for us. We really hope that this is going to encourage the use of FileCloud for small to medium-sized companies that are not 100% sure on where to go there or how to share their files. This is a very affordable way to start with FileCloud. And in the process of going forward, anyone that gets FileCloud Community Edition can always upgrade to standard or enterprise in the future. So I hope this is useful for many people out there that want to try out FileCloud, want to purchase it, and want to see how well it works on very small companies, right? Companies like with 5 or 10 users that just have a few small infrastructure on their own side. You can get started with this. Another big difference with the Community Edition is that support to FileCloud Community Edition comes through the community forums, right? So we have a forum for any request that you have for FileCloud Community Editions, and this is also where you can post any future requests for FileCloud in general. So that's you can go to community.getfilecloud.com and you can learn more about that. And you can also check on this getfilecloud.com/FileCloud Community Edition, and you will get all the information that you need regarding this, right? So please make sure to check on this. And if you have any questions, just let us know. We'll try to answer them as soon as you provided them. Okay. The next item on our list is the FileCloud Drive UI. Okay. So if you are used to FileCloud, you know that the FileCloud Drive UI, the user interface was a little bit old, right? Was a little bit on the 2000s and 90s and 2000s, right? It was a very old graphical user interface. We have changed that and we have moved to an Electron-based user interface. That's just for the user interface. All the back end, all the actual core functionality of Drive is still on as it used to be. It's still C++ programming, so that's never lost. Performance isn't impacted. It's just the UI that it's more user friendly. So let me show you how this looks now. Okay, so okay, let me know if you don't see this, but I think you do. Okay, so the new FileCloud Drive UI, as you can see on my screen, is the same icon here. The Drive UI, for those in the meeting that are not really familiar with this, is that FileCloud Drive UI is an application that you can install on Windows or Mac. And this application will allow connecting through FileCloud as a virtual network share. So, right, so if I go to my computer, you will see that I have a FileCloud Drive. It's a mount point here. And this is not necessarily going to be saving all the files to your computer. Once I browse through to the Drive application, I'm virtually browsing through whatever it is here. So none of this is saved on my computer. Those are all I'm all browsing from a remote location, but it's as intuitive as possible, right? It's going to integrate to your computer and let you browse and open files directly from here. So if I try to open any file, what happened in the background is that the file got downloaded. It's going to open it on any of the applications that I'm using. In this case is Word, but it's not limited to Microsoft Office apps. It's going to work exactly as a folder, a network folder, and it's just going to be showing you virtually whatever you have there, right? And in case you didn't know, that also includes the DocIQ Office extension. This is the one that is going to show up here on the right side. And you will see that we have information here that if the file is locked or not, if I want to prevent the downloads, any versions that I have created based on this, if I share this file publicly or not, if I can manage that share, create a new one, or even add comments. This is part of the FileCloud Drive or FileCloud Sync. Anytime you install any of those applications, DocIQ here is like a smart file manager that it's installed at the same time. So that's what FileCloud Drive is. And the FileCloud Drive UI has been revamped completely since December. This is the new graphical user interface. You will see here that any activity, this is the recent activity is whatever is happening on the Drive application, right? So if I download a file, if I close a file, if I create a file, right, like dragging and dropping directly on the folder, all of that information is going to happen here. So this is if you want to be monitoring what's going on what you're seeing, like, did I save the file properly? Did the file get sent or downloaded without any problems? You'll see that information here, okay? From this user interface, I can directly click on open folder and it will open the same folder that I just showed you, okay? That's a direct link. And the options, right? There are a few changes. Normally, if I right click on this icon, on the FileCloud Drive icon, I will see a few options, more cumbersome options before, like increasing the limit, the size limit, allowing lock on or not. All of that has been removed from here. We just left the search, open folder, and the dashboard directly. But now all the options are going to be on this toolbox here, right? So I can enable the download limit. That is especially useful for performance, right? So if I'm going to, the Drive application is a direct access application, right? It's not intended to be used as a bulk upload application. So if you're trying to migrate your files or upload a huge amount of files, we recommend you to use Sync instead of Drive. This is a more day-to-day application. Anything that you're working on, saving a new file, opening a Word or Excel document, or things like that, you can do it directly from here. And that means if you are located outside or not near the server, downloading huge files, it's not going to be as intuitive as just downloading a few megabytes or a few kilobyte files, right? So you can limit the amount of, the size limit of the files that you want to allow on Drive. If the file goes over 35, in my case, it will not download the file for edit. So I can increase all the way to 100, or I can just even disable the limit, right? So that will allow any files to be downloaded. Let's say I'm working on a 100 megabyte file. It could be a PDF file. I'm working on a design CAD file. You can just disable this. If you have a very fast connection, that's not going to be a problem for you, so you can just disable that. You can mute notifications. Notifications here in Drive is basically if the file was saved, the file was uploaded, or if someone else updated a file that you're working on, you can get that, or you can mute and just forget about those notifications because it's working everything on the background, so you don't actually have to worry about it. You have the lock automatically on edit. This is the green section that shows here. So you can see file is locked. That means if I'm using this, I'm connecting through FileCloud Drive, I'm connecting to a team folder, and I don't want that file to be edited by no one else while I'm working on it. I can lock it. Even from the DocIQ, I can just say prevent the download. So even if I'm working on a file and I don't want anyone to see the file until I'm done with the changes I'm working on, I can do that, and it will, if someone else tries to open a file from another Drive application or from the web UI, it will say that it's prevented from download from me, right? It will say that this file cannot be opened because Daniel is working on it and has the prevent download enabled. So that's an advanced feature here. You can disable this, right? If this is not useful for you or is it giving any trouble, you can disable the DocIQ integration and this will not show. And you can open the Explorer window on startup. Another thing on Drive is that whenever you shut down Windows or macOS and you start it over again, once the FileCloud Drive is mounted, you will get a new window, a new File Explorer window showing you this, right? You can disable that if you don't want that to be open. And at last, you can just enable or disable the run at Windows Startup. So if you don't really need Drive to be running all the time, you can just disable it here. You can clear the cache. The cache is, of course, every time I'm working here and I'm working on this file, if I work on many files by the end of the year, by the end of the day, those files get saved on a cache location on your Windows, and you can clear that if you don't want those files to be there for the next day. So the next day, that cache will be empty, but you can clear the cache if you don't want to leave any trace of the files you work on by the time you finish. And empty recover folder, that means if you have, let's say you're working on a bad connection and you're saving and you're closing the files, but FileCloud Drive is not completely sure that the file has been has been saved, or is there a problem, the file is too large to open, all of those is going to go into recover folder, right? Just in case that things get lost, you know that those files are in the recover folder, but you can also empty it from here. Okay. And last here is there is something you can log out, or you can go to the website directly. Okay, so as I mentioned, FileCloud Drive is showing you exactly what we actually have from here. So if I log into my FileCloud server, you're going to be seeing on Drive anything that you can see as a logged in user in your FileCloud installation. So it's exactly the same, and I can go to the site by clicking on that link that I showed you. Okay, so we really hope this new fresh look of Drive is going to help you out, and we're going to do a good refresh to the sync app this year. So that's also coming in a few months. Okay, if you have any questions regarding Drive, just let me know. Okay, next thing is that server sync has bandwidth control. And server sync, again, this is not a server sync session, but just to give you an idea of what this is server sync is a different sync application. And what this allows you to do is it will allow you to install server sync on different sites. Let's say you have 3 offices and you don't want to, you want the users to have the files accessed directly on a network share, but you still want those network shares to be synchronized to FileCloud, right? That's going to be like your FileCloud is your cloud drive, and every other office or satellite office is going to access the files directly from a network share because of speed, right? You could be working, I don't know, large PSD files or large video files. Then using Drive, it's really not a solution you're looking for. So in this case, you still want to synchronize different offices. That's when server sync is going to become useful for you. And one thing that you can do is that you can have a team folder created, and those 3 or 4 or 5, it doesn't matter how many offices you want to get synchronized, server sync is going to allow that to happen. And before 19.3, there was an option to actually control the bandwidth. That means if you are connecting from an office, and that office, of course, only has one internet connection, right? But you don't want FileCloud Server Sync to be holding all your connection bandwidth, right? You don't want Server Sync to be utilizing the full throttle of your internet speed. So you can change the settings here. This is new. You can limit an upload bit rate. You can limit the download bit rate. So that means that it's still going to take more time to server sync to finish, but you can, the nice thing here is that you can limit that on a schedule, right? So if you don't want that to happen on business hours, right? You can say, okay, I don't want this to happen from 9 to 5 p.m. Okay, between those times, I'm going to limit the download speed, right? I want my users on my company to have priority, and server sync, I'm going to limit the speed for that. But after hours, I want server sync to fully go full speed and synchronize all the files between the sites, right? And that's this is a nice control. It wasn't here, so people were where internet connection or internet speed was really slow. This was a problem. It's no longer anymore. So I think this is going to be very useful for many customers that have been having a bandwidth, or they were just, the problem is that they were just going here, and instead of having a bandwidth control, they will say, okay, you know, this is eating up my internet. I'm going to pause the sync, and I'm going to play it after I finish the work on the office. But the problem is that they could forget about doing this, or even they can forget about pausing it, and all of a sudden they will have to go back and say, oh, server sync is eating up my bandwidth. So this is a good control that just came in 19.3. And next is that there's a CAPTCHA configuration option here right now. CAPTCHA here is when the way we use it on FileCloud is that whenever we do a public share, that public share can be password protected. If I try many times to enter that password that was shared for me on a new share, it will fail one more time and it will ask for a CAPTCHA, right? And CAPTCHA is basically just going to show please enter the characters that you see on the image, but it's basically for public shares. And this has been a really requested feature from last year. So it's now included just to avoid anything that tries to spam or tries to hack into any of the password protected shares that you have. So this is a very good addition to our system in 19.3. And there are a couple more things, right? There are improvements on 19.3. Again, I encourage you to go into our differences. Here are our release summary. There is a big list of enhancements that has happened, but from the support side of view, I can tell you that there are a few that are really important, right? One is that sync application, the way the time it takes to upload and to synchronize and to check the listing on your computer versus the server has been greatly improved, right? Before 19.3, this will take a little bit more time. I would say it's between a 20-25% speed comparison from before. So now everything is going to happen more fast every time a file is created or saved. Even if there's a large amount of files listing, Sync is doing that right now much faster than before. So that's a big improvement. And another few improvements is that since we upgraded to 19.1, there is a different component on FileCloud that it's called the message queue on the FileCloud server. And all of those additions to making FileCloud more robust, more completely secure and more reliable have also increased the CPU and the RAM memory usage, right? And now on 19.3, there has been a lot of work on improving how Apache memory usage is done in the web server. Also in the database, the Mongo database has been vastly improving performance. Even if you have a large user base, or even if you have a large data set, or if you're SPLA and you have a lot of sites, everything regarding the CPU and memory for the database and for the web server has been optimized for a better performance. So there were a few, just to give you a few examples, some customers that were reporting that their web server was going way up to 15 or 18 gigabytes of RAM of usage. And eventually they will just have to restart Apache because there was nothing else that was going to solve their problem. Right now, there are protection mechanisms that are not going to allow the web server to go that far. It will limit it and it will improve and continuously improve itself while running. So people can rely on the web server part of FileCloud to be available at most time. So that's a big change. And also this is very important for small to medium-sized businesses, because if you are running, let's say you're running your FileCloud server on AWS or in Azure, you can use a T2 in the case of AWS, or the small one on Azure, the small machines, and you can still run FileCloud very efficiently. You can go, of course, our suggestion is the second tier VM size for better performance, but now it's possible again to run. It's not going to run a T2 micro, but at least on a T2 and on a machine that has at least 4 gigabytes of RAM, it can still perform with the basic functionality. So it's a very good improvement in general. Okay, and last but not least, there is a permissive mode added in Smart DLP. I'm mentioning this, we're not going to cover DLP or the Smart DLP protection mechanism right now. We're going to do a webinar just for Smart DLP in the near future. But for anyone using it right now, we just want to mention that a permissive mode has been added to Smart DLP right now. Okay, so that's what I wanted to cover on my webinar today.